Hello BodyBarre beauties, and welcome to our online instructor certification. We are so excited that you are taking the journey with us to learn about this great barre method and bringing it to studios all around the world. I am Paige. I'm the creator and founder of BodyBarre, and we're going to get started today with the manual that you have in front of you. What I want to talk about first is why BodyBarre is different than other barre methods. There are so many barre methods out there, and they're all great in their own way. Really, that makes our method stand out is the flow of the series and how it's really a plug and play. As long as you learn the moves, the terminology, and the right cueing, you can make any class amazing, and we believe that. So we're excited that you're on this journey with us. If you go to page 3 of your manual, it just kind of talks to you about what BodyBarre is. We like to kind of say this is almost like a HIIT workout as much as it is ballet inspired. It's Pilates based. We take the heart rate up, we take it down. We never really stop. We do one side, have a quick break, and then go to the other. Everything focuses on breath and movement, which for some of you yoga teachers out there, that hits right home with you. So it's breath with movement. It keeps the flow going through your whole class, but we also still are zero impact. So it's kind to your joints and your muscles, and BodyBarre really is for everybody. We have students here in our home studio in Houston ranging in ages from 14 to 85. It's really attainable barre fitness for anyone. The other main point about barre and why barre is such a fast-growing fitness routine across the world is the way that we train your muscles. It's isometric isolation into lengthening. Our motto here at BodyBarre is to define, lengthen, and inspire. But what we're doing with every move is we're pulsing into that muscle, defining that muscle, and then lengthening that muscle to get that beautiful streamlined body that is actually Pilates based as well. So we'll dive right into the method and how this is different, and we'll get going. Moving on to ballet terminology, this is page 6 in your manual. It is in alphabetical order, so it's not by importance. We're just going to kind of cover all that. The reason we like to inform you and teach you the ballet terminology, if you have a ballet background, you'll probably know all this. Your clients may not. What's very important to know that in BodyBarre, this is a Pilates-based ballet-inspired workout. We never try and say we're trying to teach you ballet. That's very important that if you have a client that comes into your class that has a ballet background, they're going to see some of these moves and say, well, wait a minute, that's not a full arabesque, or this isn't really ballet. And we're not trying to sell this ballet. It's ballet-inspired fitness. We're training these muscles to work and lengthen to get that streamlined dancer body. So starting with an arabesque. An arabesque, there's a long description here, but it's typically when you are facing the barre and the leg is extended behind you. We start in the manual with a safe arabesque, which gives you that full range of motion of how high your leg should go. You're not going to go higher than your hip, and that is because if your hip is closed, this is as high as you can go, and I'm working the glute. If I open here, right, I'm going to be working a whole other side of the hip flexors into the gluteus medius, and that is what sideline's for. So arabesque is typically just glute work, and then you're going to be working that standing leg as well. So facing the barre at arabesque, you want to make sure that your hips are square. This is a great time in your class when you can walk around when they're in arabesque, because they're facing here, and you're going to see if they're up here, and you want them to be nice and low, and it's just into the glute, down and lift. And you can work your arabesque here. We go into rainbow taps. Everything, the leg is extended behind. Very important to let your newer students know that when you're in arabesque, that's where you really want to concentrate on making sure that ribs are pulled together and the navel is tight. In this position, it's easy to sink into the shoulders and sink and let that rib cage open up. What it's doing there is giving me that lower back curve that you're not going to hurt your back, but you're going to feel that it's just going to get a little sore from working the lower back, that movement. So make sure the hips are square, ribs are pulled in. And like I said earlier, we do arabesque in G-kneed arms. Some people do it with a full extension, but again, I feel like that gets into the upper body, so to keep it nice and square that way. So that's arabesque. Going on into attitude, right? Attitude is really, you want to keep this nice and low. And attitude is the legs extended in front, and it's a lift with a bent knee. You want to think in attitude, the hip is dropped, inner thigh, and it's hip, knee, heel. You want to think in attitude, your heel is the highest point on your pulse, right? Even though my heel is low, you're wanting to think it's lifting right from the center. So that's your attitude. You can have attitude towards the front, attitude towards the side, and attitude towards the back. Okay? So the knee is bent and you're reaching through the heel. Again, it's glute work, but really inner thigh. In your attitude, think inner thigh faces the sky. You're going to have a lot of students that are going to do their attitude this way. Then you're working the hip flexor and the quad. No bueno. Bam. Down right here. And it doesn't need to be high. Attitude can be this low. Alright? That's our attitude work right here. To the side and to the back. See, I can keep it nice and low, and I'm working. Another thing to know in attitude, you want to be turned out. You're never going to be doing attitude with the foot facing. You want to make sure you're turned out. Okay? Same as in sideline, we'll touch on that too. Batma, it's spelled like badment, but it's batma. And the batma means actually the beating of the leg, which translates to, a batma is basically a kick, okay? Again, ballet fitness, not ballet. We're not trying to kick our noses. We're not trying to have height here. It's like Pilates, it's length. A batma is length. So notice my attitude is here, and then my batma is here, okay? So you're gonna work batma front, maybe side, and then maybe back. What you want to think is in the batma, the hip always stays down. You're not going to get that hip height lifted from the front to the side. Batma is actually very cardio. So if you put a batma in your series, make sure you're coming out of maybe an isometric or going into an isometric, and the batma is going to be your cardio series. Batmas are great to get that heart rate up because you're just lifting that leg. And again, you're lifting right from the center. Technically, it's just where the leg is stretching away from the body. All right, going on to coupe. A coupe is where the toe meets the ankle, nice and low. We work in a passe, which we'll touch on in a minute. And if somebody is in passe, can't do the passe, bring them to coupe. So they can come here. And that keeps it nice and low. A coupe. You can have a back coupe, a side coupe, or a front coupe. But coupe is where the toe is resting slightly right there on the ankle. Développé. Développé is exactly what it sounds like. It means to develop the leg. You will really only get into développés from an attitude. And I'll show you from here. You're in attitude. Now we're going to développé the leg. We're going to reach and pull it in. Reach and pull. So I'm extending, developing the leg. In our manual, I have you flexing and then pulling forward. In ballet, you would never do that, right? You're going to keep that toe nice and pointed. What helps here is in your attitude développé, you're going to feel the force through the heel, reaching inner thigh work and then pulling it back in. So to develop the leg. I think the only places we really développé the leg is in our front attitude, possibly in a back attitude, but mainly in the front is the développé. Going into passe, we use passe a lot. Passe is really great oblique work. So a passe, what's different from a passe to a coupe, so here's your coupe, your passe, the toe is dragged all the way up to the inside of the knee, okay? We use this in our cardio burst series, and passe here. And then we use it for passe pulls here, so it's all oblique work. If somebody can't do the passe, they're holding onto that hip flexor, give them a coupe, okay? Passe, coupe. It's just a little easier on the body. Moving on to plie. You'll do lots of plies. They're in everything all class long. A plie. In BodyBarre, we work in 3 position plies. A first position, a second, and a parallel chair plie. So your first position, your heels are together, you're turned out from the hips, not the knees, and you're bending the knees over the toes. That essentially is a plie, bending the knees over the toes. Now notice, I can only demi so much here without sticking my booty out in your plie. So that's where it's a small little pulse. Once we roll through the feet and we're in that releve, which we'll get into, this is where your plie will be in first position here, okay? Knees over toes. Like every principle of fitness, knees over toes. In a squat, a lunge, a plie, knees over toes. And it's small. Every plie is nice and small. Another really important thing to notice is in that plie, never lock the knees. So if you're plieing, you never want them to lock, okay? So it's plie, lift, okay? And then a second position, everybody's second position is going to be a little different because we're all built a little different with our hips and how long our legs are. So again, you want to find that perfect position, turned out from the hips, not the knees, and the plie comes down. We never do grand plies in barre. A grand plie will be all the way down, okay? So it's just right here, knees over toes. And then again, if I'm in that releve, same thing here. Press and lift, press and lift, plies. You'll do a lot of plies in BodyBarre, a lot of plies. And you're in that releve, make sure those toes are nice and centered. You want to make sure in both plies, first and second, that you're in that releve, you're not back here on your toes, because that's going to get right into the ankle, and you're not forward here, you're going to get right into the knee. So you want to be right in the center. You've got that bar there for stability. So find that center right here. In ballet, there is a pole sliding right down, and that's where you're moving from. Nothing else is moving. The chair position plie is a little different because you are able to push those hips back, but then you'll be here. Same thing, knees over toes. Chair plie. We do not work in 4th position or 5th position plies. Not even going to show it to you because you're not going to do that to your knees in this ballet fitness, okay? Going into port-de-bras. Port-de-bras is so great. I think it's something very unique to BodyBarre. And a port-de-bras means to carry the arm, whether it's across the body or across. We normally use our port-de-bras over the bar, and that really opens up the side body. So our port-de-bras is going to look like this. Reach, down, and reach. And then you'll add a releve maybe in your port-de-bras. But the port-de-bras means to carry the arm. In our warm-up, we use the weights, and we port-de-bras here. And you notice, when I'm in my port-de-bras, everything is open, stretching here. So the port-de-bras is the carriage of the arm. All right, so my little ballet. Yes, the carriage of the arm. I love port-de-bras when you get into sideline because that port-de-bras is opening you up and you're diving into the bar. Make sure when they do port-de-bras and they're diving into that bar, diving into that mirror, whatever it is, that they're not arching that back because they're just going to want to go for it. So you really want to still find that port-de-bras arm, everything pulled in right here. Port-de-bras. Releve. Already showed you. A releve is you're on your toes, heels up. I said this earlier, if you see a client that this is their releve, and the heels are barely lifting, they're putting stress on their knees and their calves. So either heels all the way up or heels down. Eventually they'll get that extension and be able to be all the way up. But if you're right in the center, they think, well, I can't get all the way up, I'm going to go halfway. No, it's just going to put stress on their calves. And it's better that they're just here. And then when they're ready to be up, they can, okay? Making sure that's a nice supported system through all of the toes. I use releves a lot through class. You can add them in your attitude. You can add a releve second into releve. Releves are beautiful. They're all about that supporting leg. Make sure if a client is in releve, either in first, we never do second, first or chair, if they're in releve, it's all about that standing leg, that they're not sinking into that hip and that knee. So if they're in releve, it means they have a healthy standing knee and they're supported. I have been known to do sideline facing the bar in releve, okay? If you're in sideline releve, you see somebody here, they're putting too much stress, so you're releve over here. But simply just dropping the heel and you're still working right there. Releve only if that standing knee is healthy, okay? If it's not, it will get there, okay? The supporting leg. The supporting leg, the instructor may say, you're going to feel this in the supporting leg. The supporting leg is the leg you're standing on. So in sideline, this is my supporting leg. I'm working my glute, I'm working my core, my lat, everything's working right here, my obliques. But I'm going to feel this in that supporting leg, okay? Same in arabesque. This is my supporting leg. The working leg, which we'll go into, is the leg that's doing the work. This is the working leg, this is the standing leg in your sideline. This is the working leg, this is the supported leg here. And I jumped ahead with the working leg. The last thing we have in here is a tendu. I don't really do a tendu all that often, but a tendu is a nice place to get. Say you're coming in from attitude, développé, you're going to tendu the leg down to go into your bas work. You can plie, tendu front, extend the leg. So a tendu is essentially where you're taking the bas leg, but the toe stays on the ground. Down and reach. So from bas you can take it down, reach, down, tendu. And it's just one leg is stretched away from the body. And either to the front, tendu side, or tendu back. Foot and arm positioning. Like I said earlier, we only work in first, second, and parallel. For plies. Arm positioning, we work in first, second, and fifth. Okay, never a fifth position plie. So your first position, arms are right in front of you. You want to think almost like you're rounding a beach ball and your thumbs are dropped. You want to extend those pointer fingers, but it's a slightly rounded in front of the body, level with the sternum. So your first position here, it's not down here, it's right in the center, okay? Nice strong arms. I'm activating my shoulders all the way. We do this with weights, so you can imagine having your arms here with weights, all right? So this is the first position, opening to a second position. Second position, a lot of people are going to jack up their things like that, right? So drop the shoulders, first and second. Their shoulder width apart. So this is second position here for arms and legs, and first position is here, okay? Fifth position we use in the warm-up when the arms come overhead. Again, making sure that when you're in fifth position, you're not sticking that rib cage out. It's very easy. Once those arms come up, the ribs want to come up. Pull them in. You honestly want to see in your fifth position, peripherally, you want to see your fingers, okay? So if you're in that fifth position, you want to see them right overhead. We don't use fifth position so much at the bar as we do in our warm-up. Second, first, second, port de bras, second, fifth. First, second, and fifth. Second. And those are pretty much the arms you're going to use. And then imagine that with weights, right? But in your arm work, always, 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 shoulders down and back, and the rib cage nice and pulled in. So if you turn to page 9, we're going to go to some modification notes. What I love about our method is that it is attainable for everyone, like I said earlier, but there are modifications, and you as the instructor need to know what you can do to help that client through their personal fitness journey with you through your BodyBarre class. If a client has foot pain caused by plantar fasciitis, anything that we do in releve, they can perform those exercises with their heel on the floor. Each plie, a demi-plie, actually elongates that calf, which helps them with any pain they have through plantar fasciitis. I suffered with plantar fasciitis when I had my second child, and all my barre work did was just help me get better, because you want to lengthen the back of that muscle. So any exercise in releve can be done with the heels on the floor. A lot of your students, if they're new to barre, that releve is going to feel a little awkward to them. So you can cue for them to place the heels on the floor until they find that foot positioning. When we get to the first series, rolling through the feet into our plie, the foot position, you want to make sure that they're right in the center of that big and small toe, right in that the ball of the foot. Another misconception is that you may have a client with the heels all the way up, and if they don't feel that way, they're going to drop the heels just slightly. That is false. You either want the heels all the way up or down. If they're kind of at that midpoint, you're going to put a lot of stress on that calf. So if you see somebody struggling with just barely getting those heels up, just cue for them to bring the heels down. Eventually they're going to get them up there and find that positioning. Knee injuries. Another misconception is that I can't do barre because I have knee pain. Absolutely not true. We are, in every exercise, especially in those plies, we're lifting the knees. You'll see eventually all of my cueing to lift the kneecap towards the hip. When you're in a releve, not sinking into that knee. You want to cue them to keep their inner thigh lifted, and then not sink into that kneecap. Also, all of your hamstring work, ball work, we'll get to at the very end of our first series. All hamstring work is going to help strengthen and lift the front of that kneecap. So encourage them to keep trying, keep staying in class, and just modify. Everything can be small. There are no giant movements in the plie series. Absolutely not. It's small little pulses. You want to make sure that everybody is working in a neutral spine, and that means from start to finish at the barre. You're going to start with cueing how to pull the ribs in, keep a long spine without any arch in the back, especially when you're facing the barre in any arabesque work with the leg is extended. It's very natural to want to just let that rib cage fall out. So keeping that powerhouse, as we call it, all pulled together and strong, like you're sliding down that wall, is really going to help. A lot of your clients have never done ballet before. That's okay. It's very different than a squat. In a squat, you're able to, extend the booty behind you. In our barre series, you're going to keep it nice and flat. That means they're not going to be able to extend the knees as low or go as far down, and that's okay. As long as it's sliding and long, you're golden. Moving on, neck and shoulder issues. You want to make sure that, and this is another, just as the ribs, you want to make sure those shoulders are always pulled down. We used to have a lot of our barre work where the arm was extended above or out. Typically, we now just place the outside hand on the waist. I'll tell you why. When a client is working their lower body and their arm is extended, they're concentrating on what they're doing here, and that shoulder is going to creep up. So instead of having to cue shoulder down as you're working on the lower body work, you're going to be able just to have them concentrate on what they're doing from the hips down. Everything is from the core anyway, so that's going to be where they're working, from the core all the way down. Dropping the knees in any plank work is very recommended. The plank work, anybody can do. They really can. There's modifications if they have wrist pain, maybe taking a fist, or coming down into a dolphin where you interlace the hands and you're pressing through the forearms. If you drop those knees and you just hold that dolphin pose, you're getting into the same muscles. You may not getting the heart rate as high, but you're still getting the work done. So there's always modifications. Never give up on a student because they have some sort of issue with the neck, shoulders, back, or knees. Everything is attainable in BodyBarre. All right, moving on to what I believe is the most important tool for your barre class. I believe this is what a lot of people love about BodyBarre is rhythmic cueing and musicality. We're not all ingrained with it, and that's okay. We're going to give you some awesome tools to where you can hear the beat, hear the rhythm, hear the 8 count. All great music that is mixed well has that 8 count rhythm, and the 32 counts, it starts over. So you'll eventually just hear it. But it's very important to me that you are listening to your music and that you're cueing on the beat, and that's particularly knowing your music. Once you do become a BodyBarre instructor, when you join the portal, we give you music every month, and if you stick to what the music we're giving you, you can't fail with that, as long as you can hear it and listen to it. Knowing your music is so important. It's hearing that 8 count and staying with it. It's also going to help you count your reps. Say you want to do 4 sets of something, you know you're going to count to 8 4 times. It's pretty simple. And then the music is going to start over and you move on to the next thing. All repetitions are done in 8 counts, and you cue on the 4 or 2, depending on what series you're going into next. Continuous mixes, I can't say it enough. They're so important. If you have a song, if you're creating your class and you start with 5 different songs, not only is the BPM going to change, but you're going to have to think, when is the song going to end? Oh, I only have 8 to do on this side. So using that continuous mix is key, especially if you're just starting out as an instructor. Our recommendation is to use two continuous mixes for your warm-up, the floor series, and then at the bar. Believe me, that will help you. I've trained many instructors who have started that way, and then they were able to move into bringing other fun aspects to it. And a very well-mixed song set, like I said, will change every 32 counts. I can't say that enough. I can say it again and again. Keep the rhythm and the beat even when you're getting ready to cue them the next thing. Stay on the rhythm with it. This is called rhythmic cueing. In your manual, when we dive into the series, I give you rhythmic cues, and I kind of sing the cues even. And it really helps them hear what's going to come next. Listening to your music before you get up in front of your class, make sure you know where it builds, where it comes down. That's very, very, very important. Another thing about a rhythmic cueing, counting, right? You want to count from 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. So that's a quick count. Or you can say 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Actually, we never really say 1 all the time because you're going to be cueing what's coming next. So there's 2 different ways you can count: up to tempo, half tempo, and then once you are comfortable counting your reps, that's when and only when you can start adding in cues. Lift the knees, square the hips, shoulders down, ribs in. That's when you're going to start being able to throw those cues in as you walk around. You're going to feel like you're doing a lot of counting when you start your first class. A lot of counting. That's okay. They'd rather hear how many reps they have left, and then you add in all the stuff. And you know, you're cueing because you're watching to see what's happening. You're not just going to throw in some random cue. You're going to see that Brenda's shoulders are up, or that Diane's hips are not square. You're going to see that, so you're going to be able to walk around and see that. It's not something that you can plan in your class what you're going to cue. That is another sign of a good instructor. If you're cueing because you actually see what needs to be corrected. We're not really hands-on in BodyBarre because our verbal cueing is so on point that they know what you're saying. You don't have to go and grab their hips or pull their leg, and it's going to be an easy fix from them just hearing what you're saying. And yeah, don't be afraid to sing your cues. I know it sounds corny, but it's true. It's fun. It keeps it fresh. We're going to turn up the music a little bit. I'm going to count with you so you can hear how I cue a class, how I count. And we're always going to count in eights. Never 16 down, it's eights. If you're going to do 2 counts of 8 or 16 reps, you're going to count 8 twice. And then you'll cue on the 4 or the 2. So you hear the beat here. Our BPMs are always about 126, 128. It's a little slower than some bar methods, but believe me, it'll get that heart rate up. All right, so we're going to start right here. For take it 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. That's 1. For 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. That's 2. For 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Last set. For 8, 7, 6, 5, for 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, so that was a 4 sets of 8 count. Okay, so say you're going to do 4 sets of 8 in arabesque. That, what I just counted, is there. Now we're going to pick it up. So if you're going into trotting, which we'll get into, or any ball work, we kind of like to pick up the tempo a little bit. It looks like this. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. That's 1. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. That's 2. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Last one. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Still in musicality with rhythmic cueing and counting together. So you're going to add your counting and then maybe add some rhythmic cueing, like I told you we're going to get into when we get into the series. Our first series is rolling through the feet, and it would sound like this. Down, roll, lift. Down, roll, lift. Down, roll, lift. Down, roll, lift. 4 more. Down, roll, lift. Down, roll, lift. Down, roll, lift. Hold it here, pulse plie. Take it 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 4, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Now we're going to cue to second and first. Here we go. Take it out and in. Out and in. Step second and first. Second. 4 more. 4 and in. For 3, 4, 2. Now we're going to add that BodyBarre arm right here and take it down. Stretch. Down. Reach. Down. Extend. Down. 4 more. 4 and lift. For 3, 4, 2. Beautiful. Now hold it here. Passe reach. Take it down. Passe reach. Down. Passe lift. Down. Passe dive. Down. 4 more. 4 and lift. 3, 4, 2, and 1. Nice. All right, so you can see that I'm always cueing on the 4. 4 more seems to be a great place to give them 4 more. Obviously because it's 4. No, but it gives them that, okay, I have 4 more left. And cueing them right before the next series. Sometimes you can only cue on the 2. It just depends on what you're going into next, and that gives you, as the instructor, freedom to where you want to cue, on the 4 or the 2. Last thing about musicality, if you do get off the beats, it can actually confuse your students and it can slow your class down. So you want to keep it moving, keep them moving, never stop moving, keep it going with your counting. Just listening to that music over and over. I recommend that if you're driving around in your car, play your playlist. If you're cleaning your home or just making dinner, play your playlist so you hear it. It's ingrained in your head. You know where it's going to build, where it comes down, and maybe if the music changes a little bit. It should always stick to the same BPMs, but some continuous mixes, so they're not just boring beat, beat, beat. They do kind of slow, they get softer and then build. So that's definitely important. Know your music. Now we're going to dive into general class setup and information. This is something that if you're building your first barre studio, this is great information of how you want to set your bars. Also, when you are setting up your class, you want to make sure you tell your students where you want them to stand and know where the focal point is so they can always see you, okay? You don't want them trying to find you in the middle of the room. So these class positioning really helps you with that. Barre height, starting with barre height, it should be at least 36 inches from the floor. There's a little wiggle room there. I've had some that have been about 38. Any higher than that gets too high, and then any lower than that, it's really hard for your taller students to work in an arabesque or sideline, because sideline we're resisting against that barre. So 36 from the floor to be measured if you're putting new bars in your studio. Footwear. There are some barre studios who just want socks, and that's great, the sticky socks. I personally don't like socks because I like to feel my feet and where they are. And even though they're socks, I feel a little constricted. But I am not knocking socks. If you want socks, wear them. Some people use it for hygiene issues, and that is up to you. But socks can get in the way sometimes when you're trying to figure out where you're going, especially because this method moves. When you're stepping second to first, you don't want that sock to stick and then you get into that knee. That's another problem I have with socks, that sometimes they do stick and then you won't be able to find that full extension when we're going into cardio bursts. You want to be able to let your feet glide through the floor and really work those feet. Class positioning. All students should face the same direction around the room. In BodyBarre, we work one side and we fatigue that one side. We work it all the way to the end. It's about 12 to 15 minutes, and then we go to the other side. This is for your basic BodyBarre work. When we go into facing the bar, you're facing the bar, so that's fine. Never put a new student on the end. So if you know we're going to be flipping around, if they're at the end, they're going to be in front when you flip around. So always place a new student, maybe behind a more seasoned student, or somewhere where he or she feels very comfortable to be able to see the person in front of you, footwork, and be able to see the instructor. Hand positioning at the bar. You want your hand just barely touching the bar. You're never gripping that bar for dear life. It is there for you to use your own body resistance. It's not there to do anything more than that. It's there to support you. When we go into sideline, the bar is there for you to resist, not to just sink into. If you're resisting, same as in arabesque work, you're resisting that bar. So you want to have the hand slightly in front of you and no death grip, because then you're just going to start feeling any arm tension right there. So make sure your students aren't gripping that bar for dear life. It's just a slight touch to keep them balanced. You want to make sure when you set up at the bar, you set them up just like you would at the beginning of class. Cue, all right, we're going to draw that shoulders down and back. Pull those ribs in, heavy, heavy tail. Elongate through the crown. You know, this is ballet inspired, so you're working to lift. Even though you're pushing into the floor in those pliés, you want to think up, up. So you set them up for that beginning of class with all those beautiful cues. Deep inhale, and then you can start moving through your movement. Making sure that back is never arched or hyperextended. The cueing of the ribs is always key. If you tell someone and they've got that hyperextension or that arched back, you tell them to pull their ribs in, automatically they're gonna find that center, okay? Also, they're really working in that Pilates-based powerhouse movement of holding everything in, working from the core. All of our leg movement is done right from the center, right from the core. Always work from a neutral spine. I like to say heavy, heavy tailbone. I personally don't ever like to say tuck or tilt, okay? And I'll tell you why. If you're tucking or you're tilting, you're putting some strain on that pelvis. So if you just say neutral, heavy, they're gonna find it. You know, when you're in bridge work on the mat or at the bar, that's where you can find that tuck and tilt. But at the bar, neutral, 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 heavy tailbone. And then those abdominals are always kept in. And that's not only to keep working your core throughout your whole bar practice, it's also to protect your spine. That's really what it's there for, is to hold it in and protect your spine. All right, I'm going to talk about a little of your class skeleton and how it sets it up. Once you learn the method and you learn the series and the flow, you're going to be plugging and playing eventually once you get comfortable. Sticking with what it is in the manual is going to be a great guideline to start. But we're going to give you kind of how your class should be set up as far as how long you should spend on the mat, how long you should spend in arms, abs, plank, all that jazz. So you're going to start with your warm-up. Your warm-up is pretty much just to get the heart rate moving and get the class going, and that's going to be about 3 to 5 minutes. From there, you're going to go right into your arm series. We start with weights in our hands, so your warm-up, you're going to have weights. So right there, you're already getting arm workout, and then your arm series is going to be 5 to 7 minutes. That really is technically about a 10 to 12 minute arm series because you're using it in the warm-up as well. From there, we dive down into our flow series. It's a really nice transition to be able to drop the weights. I just don't like to stop and say, grab your weights. Okay, place your weights down. Okay, now grab your weights. It just stops the flow. BodyBarre has a very solid beginning, middle, and end. It always flows, it always moves, it's choreographed, it flows. I know where we're going next. Your students also will know that the class warm-up and everything you do on the mat is going to pretty much stay the same. You're going to add some new bits in there, new arm series, new abs, new plank series, but the flow of it's going to stay the same. So you're going to dive down into the flow series, and that's when you're going to get rid of those weights. Your flow series is going to be about 3 to 5 minutes long. That's where you're going to throw in your vinyasa flows, your triangles. That's where you can pause if something is a little tight, and that's where they get to stretch it out. We stretch after the arm series. Again, that's 3 to 5 minutes. From there, you're in your flow series, it goes right into your plank series. Your plank series is kind of up to you. We have here that it's about 3 to 4 minutes. Choose wisely on what you want to do with that. Sometimes I'll throw in a leg series in the plank series. So you're still working in that tabletop plank series, but maybe one knee is down. That gives some of your students who can't sustain a plank for that long, maybe a little variation there. So 3 to 4 minutes on plank series. From there we go into ab series. Yes, we do abs at the beginning of class. I'll tell you why. If you do abs at the end of your class, you're already fatigued, you've already worked, you're not gonna have that strength to get through your ab series. Our Pilates-based ab series is done before we go to the bar because you're gonna fire up what needs to be fired up. That's gonna translate to the bar, and those abs are ready and they're burning and they're ready to work for you. So keeping the ab series before you go to the bar is super important for me in this method because it really makes sense in what you're going to do. And that'll come into play with after you do your bar work. You're going to send them off with a bang and then be able to take a nice cool down after the bar series. So after the ab series, we go into a nice downward dog roll up. I believe every person should start their day in a downward dog and roll up the spine. Try it. It's a great way to wake up. just us popping up, or if we're in abs and we just pop up and go to the bar, it's kind of shocking for the body. So think how you would do in your Pilates class. You're gonna roll through the spine. You're gonna take some time to release anything you just did in your arm stretch, abs, plank series. You're gonna roll up one vertebrae at a time, shake it down, shoulders down and back. The last thing to lift is the crown, and then you go to the bar. It's a beautiful thing. The bar series, we have everything set that's in your manual is done in that set series. Eventually, you are going to be able to leave this out, play with this. Maybe you want to work on a longer chair series, or you want to stay in plie a little bit longer. You're going to style your class to what works for your students once you get comfortable. The bar work is done anywhere between 12 and 15 minutes per side. We do give them a quick water break between sides. I also like to say, if somebody wants to keep moving, you as the instructor, take a quick drink of water, go to the other side and get them moving. So those students that want to keep moving can keep moving. There's going to be others that want to, grab a quick drink of water. But for those ones who don't want to stop, give them that option. Don't just stop your class. Take it to the other side, set it up, and maybe you're going to sit in a second position plie, demi-plie for, 3 counts of 8, 4 counts of 8. That's okay, they're just still moving. And then our bar series, general order recommendation. Again, it's a recommendation. You are going to eventually plug and play. We start with rolling through the feet or tarpon feet. And this will all make sense to you once we get the material, once you learn that material, into the plie series. Plie series is also called our isometric series. That's when we're pulsing into that muscle to get it to fatigue. And then we go into a cardio burst. Our cardio burst, the first one is a second and first. I love this one because you can really throw it in anywhere. From second and first, you'll be able to go to pretty much any series. Or if you're thinking, what am I going to do next? What am I going to do next? Go to your second and first. Keeps the heart moving, keeps the class moving, keeps the heart rate up. And then from there, there's a little pause before you go into your chair series / John Travolta. Again, chair series and John Travolta can be done with the heels on the earth. Make sure you're looking to that. If you see a student that has any sort of knee issues, you don't want them to be in that hinge releve ever for John Travolta. They can stay in John Travolta with the heel down and then guide it up for wherever you're going to go next with that for the chair series. From John Travolta, we go into the scoop release / cardio Batma attitude series. So from there, you're going to go into your attitude series or your Batma series. The Batma series is very extensive. There's so many things you can do. You're never going to want to do everything that's in the manual. Pick and choose what you're comfortable with, and then maybe try something the next class or the next class. Pick and choose what works for you. Batma, from Batma, you're going to take a moment to go into your sumo sideline work. That's when you're going to step into second. Sumo into sideline sumo kick gets you into sideline. Again, sideline, there's so many things you can do. So make sure that you pick and choose. Don't over fatigue them, but maybe say you're working, you really want to make this a gluteus medius class or an outer glute class. Really focus on that through your whole class. And then from sideline, you're going to slowly transition towards your bar for your arabesque work. Right in this manual, our arabesque work is done with a genie arm, so it's a nice square shoulder. Some bar methods have you extended. That's fine, but I believe that's for a more advanced class, and you really have to concentrate on that powerhouse, rib cage, navel to spine, everything being pulled in. If the arms are extended, the first thing to go is that rib cage and then that scoop in the lower back. No bueno, right? And then you're going to end with your fun song or your ball work. And that's going to kind of finish up one side at the bar. Your fun song actually comes at the very end of class. It comes after your first side, your second side, and then you finish the class with maybe something you want to touch on that you haven't done. We talked about this in the manual that maybe you didn't do arabesque work, so you want to do a fun song for arabesque work. You want to do ball work, you want to do chair work. It was typically just a plie series just to kind of solidify everything, get those fast twitch muscles going, elongate them, and then get them out of there. And then you're going to do your cool down anywhere between 3 and 5 minutes. I'm a very big believer on making sure you leave time for that cool down. Personally, when I've been in fitness classes and you're done and then they just send you out the door, you never got to really bring in and release anything you've just worked on. So make sure you're giving them a nice cool down. We like to turn the lights off, change the music up, take them from a stretch to the bar all the way to the floor for that cool down. And then we really try and seal in our practice like you would in a yoga class, just kind of honoring that body and finding gratitude for the students in the class. I always end, I'm so grateful that I'm allowed to be here teaching them, guiding them, training them, because you as a BodyBarre instructor, you're changing their life daily. I see it every day, and it's what makes me get out of bed in the morning and eat and breathe and jump for joy, because you're going to be changing lives. And that's really exciting about not only you're doing something healthy for you, you're doing something healthy for them, and you really are changing lives. You'll see. You'll get the feedback, and it's honestly one of the most special things about being a BodyBarre instructor.